Well, how's it going there, guys? James here from Butler Farms early on a Saturday morning. Got a little project going on that I kind of take for granted. We do it quite often around here, but I wanted to bring you along and show you what I've got going on. A lot of people at this time are all into bread and making bread. Now, our whole supply of bread, which honestly we need to cut down on, does not come from homemade. But when I have time, which is in short supply these days, I do make my own bread. I've always been interested in it, and luckily my wife had an aunt that has since passed away that was one of the best bread makers ever. And so over time she saw my interest in it and me asking about it and things like that, and she got me started in it. Now, before we get too deep, I know that a bunch of you are probably going to say, well, that's not how I do it, and that's not what I do with my starter and everything else. Guys, there's as many ways to make bread as there is people, okay? So this is just the way we do it. It's quick, it's easy, and it's really, even though it looks like a lot of steps, it's really kind of set it and forget it. And that's right now. I may get into some different types of breads later on, but right now this is perfect for us, okay? So I'm going to bring you along and let you see kind of the steps. Now, these steps are not all in one day, okay? So you've got to set yourself some time aside to be able to get this done, okay? So first of all, we like sourdough, and I make a bunch of different things with it. We do cinnamon sugar raisin. Last time I did everything bagel bread. We do garlic toast bread with the cheese and the garlic powder and all that kind of stuff. And we just make regular plain sourdough bread. I still care, this makes 3 full-size loaves. And so and that's good because, first of all, we're not going to eat all 3 before they go bad because there's no preservatives in it. So therefore you got to kind of eat it up. But her uncle, from the aunt that gave me these supplies, we always take him one, and he loves it, and so we're glad to do that. Let me turn you around here real quick, and I know at some point I'm going to have to make a more detailed video, but I normally do this early in the morning. Nobody else is up, okay? So I'm having to film. Y'all notice my blue hands there. I always wear gloves simply because when I start mixing that, if I get it on my hands, it's like trying to break concrete off my hands the rest of the day once it dries. So I'm not about all that. Now, one thing that she gave me, and this is probably the most important step, this is my starter, okay? And her starter that she got this from, she had gotten it from another lady at work. And according to her, in some form or fashion, that starter had been around for almost 30 years. Yep, you heard me right, 30 years. Where as long as you keep feeding it and keep using it, and you know, it will last. That is stored in the refrigerator. That's getting ready to go back in the refrigerator. And next time I need it, I'll just pull it out and use it. Now, the first thing that we have to do on day one, when we first get started, is take that starter out, mix it up real good, and then we're going to add sugar and some warm water. And believe it or not, we're going to add potato flakes. Never heard of that, but that's the recipe. We've done it ever since then, and it works beautifully. Okay, then we stir it up, and then I leave this on the counter overnight with the top off, kind of cocked up on the side. And I leave it overnight, and the next morning, man, you just see all this movement in there and the foam at the top and everything. It is working. So that was step one. Step two is where I am now, and that's when we're actually going to make our dough. Okay, so what we've done now is I've pulled out, it calls for a cup of the starter. I really like the sourdough taste, so I go a little bit above that. I usually do about 1 1/4 cup. It's got water in it. We had to add a little bit more sugar, some oil, some salt, and bread flour. Now, at this point in time, as y'all know, eventually, when I can get some time, we do have an Azure standard drop-off here locally in central Alabama where I live. But I don't, at the times that they come through, I'm at work. So one of these days I'm going to be able to get some better flour. But you can see we buy the big bag from, you know, Sam's, Costco bags, and that all that is bread flour that you can make pizza doughs, the real stretchy, high gluten flour. Yep, I know there's better options out there, but right now that's what we have to do. All right, so what I'm getting ready to do now is I'm getting ready to take all of this that I've got mixed together. Again, that's sugar, that's oil, that's salt, that's warm water, and that is 6 cups of bread flour, okay? And it's the small things. The first time I did this, I reached down in that bag right there with the scoop, and man, I got me a hard scoop, and it was all packed in there. My bread didn't turn out. And so I asked my wife's aunt, I said, what did I do wrong? And she said, and so I told her what I did, and she said, don't pack your flour. And I said, does that make a difference? She said, it does. So that's why you see this out here. I take scoops and fill up my 1 cup measuring cup, and then I take and just smooth off the top like that. And believe it or not, it made all the difference in the world. That one little step made all the difference in the world. Now this does get kind of messy. This cutting board that I have under here, the reason for that is this is where I measure my flour out, and when I scrape it off, it stays on the board, and I can bend this and pour the flour back into the bag. But this will also serve another purpose, not today, because I'm getting ready to mix this, all right? And once I mix it, it's going to sit till tonight. And tonight is when I will break it apart and knead it and add my ingredients in it and let it and put it in the pans and let it sit again. So let's get this, see if we can get this stirred up here without me getting all this all over the camera. And you can see it looks very, very wet right now, but you can also see now that all the dry ingredients are starting to come up to the top. And so it's getting ready to take some shape pretty quickly. And I got to get this done and get this floor swept before boss lady sees all the flour that I have managed to get all over the floor. All right, so I'm going to mix and mix and mix. And you know, when I first started doing this, I was like, wait, there's still too much dry stuff in here. I'm never going to be able to get all this to mix in. You will. You just got to keep working with it. And I take my fingers here and scrape the side and get that dry stuff off the sides and fold it. I'm really not working it that hard like the camera shows. I don't want to overwork it, but I still got to get it all incorporated in. And you can see it's starting to really get dried out now, and I'm folding that dry stuff in there. And I could have used a little more liquid, but it's going to be all right. It's going to pick up that flour in the bottom. And I don't know how well that's picking up on camera, but when that flour flips up on top, all I'm doing is just folding it in, okay? So that's about got it for this step, okay? So I've still got some dry stuff there. And I'm not going to do it right now, but for the sake of time, all right, so, well, let me do this step first. All right, so there is my dough, okay? Now the only other thing I need to do, you can see what it looks like there. It's just like a kind of a thick pizza dough, because that's basically what it is, with sourdough in it. And so what I'm going to do is now I'm going to put some oil in the bottom of this bowl, and all that oil does is I'm going to take it and just roll that in the oil. Okay, let me see if I can get this out of here one-handed. So I'm going to pour a little oil in the bottom. Now it calls for canola oil. We try to stay away from the seed oils. I don't, you know, olive oil, canola oil, I don't think it matters. It's never affected my bread. And as you see, all I did was just roll that in the oil, and all that does is just keep it from sticking. Okay, so that when you get ready to work it, you'll be able to get it out of the bowl. And that's basically it, guys. Now, what I'm going to do now is I will set this off to the side. And I don't have anything fancy. I have a paper towel. So I'm going to set that right back there on my cooling rack. Okay, there it is. And I'm simply going to cover it with a paper towel. And that will sit out till tonight. Okay, you got to let it have time to rise. And so Even though it's broken into 4 steps, I don't count it that way. I count it as 2. The first step being preparing my starter and preparing my dough. I put those 2 together, even though she's got it broken down. You can see what she did for me. She made me this very fancy typed out and laminated directions there, and that looks like a lot of directions. It's really not. I mean, it's a list of ingredients and stuff like that. So you say, "Oh, that's too much for me to do." No, it's really simple. And once you do it once or twice, you don't even need to look at this. But this is coming very handy because without it being laminated, that would have already been destroyed in this kitchen. So anyway, last night I prepared my sourdough starter, left it out all night, let it do its thing. And now this morning I have made my dough. And so I put those 2 steps together into one. When I bring you back, what we're going to do is break it into, I'll have to do it as part 2 of a video. And like I said, maybe in a couple of months when things slow down at work, I can get somebody actually in here to film me doing it step by step. And it'll make, hopefully this makes sense. But it'll be a little bit better when you can see all the actual steps. So this is step 1 and 2. Again, I kind of put them together. Step 1, you got to find somebody to give you the starter, or you can make your own starter. But luckily, she did this for me. I've had this going for about a year and a half, maybe, and it's getting ready to go right back in the fridge to be used the next time. So we charge up our starter. Step 1. Step 2, we've made our dough. There she is. She's going to sit there all day. And then tonight I will come in and I will make my loaves. And when I make my loaves, that's when I'll add my ingredients in, and we'll let that sit all night. And then in the morning, when I get up before I start getting ready to go to church, I will bake them. Okay? And I'll bring you those 2 steps. I think that's be the best thing, to put these 2 in one and put the last 2 steps in another. But anyway, I'm going to leave it right there. I got a ton of stuff to do, but this is a done deal. And, you know, I would say the hard part's over, but there's nothing hard about it. Don't be intimidated to try new things. You know, it was really pretty simple. I thought, well, I'm going to mess this whole bread thing up. And there's really no way to mess it up. This, I will tell you, though, when she was healthy and cooking all the time, she had this sourdough starter, and guys, it made the most unbelievable cinnamon rolls you have ever tasted in your life. She would roll them up with all that goodness inside, slice them like a cinnamon roll, put them in that pan, and she made her own caramel topping from scratch and poured it over the top. I just cannot explain to you what that was like. But stay tuned, guys. I'll have the second part of this video coming up, and you can see the final 2 steps, and it's just that easy. It's that simple. So another little thing to get prepared, another little skill to learn, another little thing to put in your toolbox. You know, I'm not saying the world's coming to an end, but it doesn't hurt anything to know how to do some of these things, so that regardless of what comes along, you've got this skill, you've got this knowledge, and you've got the supplies to make it happen. All right, I'm going to leave it right there. I'll see you in the next one when we finish this little project up. And until next time, we love you. God bless you. This is James from Butler Farms, and we'll be seeing you. All right, guys, this is James back with you. And as you can see, if you watched the first part of this, you can see that the dough has risen, and it is time to start making my loaves. So the first thing that we're going to do is just punch it down, get some of that air out of it. We're going to peel it out of the bowl and get rid of that. We're done with that for the time being. I don't usually flour my cutting board because it's not going to be on here long. So I'm just going to work real quick with it, and I'm going to try to make it into an even loaf. And then I will take just a regular steak knife, and I'm going to try to cut it as close as I can to 3 equal pieces. And I may have to go back and add a little bit to each little chunk as I go, but I'm gonna get them as close as I can. It's really, I don't weigh them, I don't measure them. I just kind of feel them and see. And I know that this one on the left side's a little light, so I'm gonna pull some out of those. That feels pretty close, and that feels pretty close. So I'll set those two off to the side. Now with these two, I'm just gonna make regular bread with those. So I'm gonna get these out of the way just for a second before I need those. But I'm gonna stretch this out. The only special one I'm gonna make this week is a cinnamon raisin bread. And so I'm just gonna get it as flat as I possibly can and as even as I possibly can. And then we are going to take this cinnamon sugar mixture that we have here. Now, I know you can buy this in the store. We do it ourselves for cinnamon toast and things like that. And I'm simply going to sprinkle that over the top like this. And the thing about it with this sourdough, if you want to taste it, when you think you've got enough on there, put some more. It takes a good bit of it to be able to taste it. And unfortunately, it looks like we're going to be kind of low on stock here. I'm going to have to mix some more after I get done. But we'll get as much of this out of this bag as we can, if I can get it out of the bag. And sprinkle that all over. Try to get it as even as you possibly can. That's going to be about all we're going to be able to get out of that bag. So it may be kind of light on the cinnamon flavor. But like I said, it takes the first couple of times I did the cinnamon toast or the cinnamon sugar bread, it didn't have much of a taste at all, to be honest with you. I've got some organic raisins. They sell them in just any store you want to. I'm just going to sprinkle some of those around. I like raisins, so I'm going to put it kind of heavy. But you do what you like. And like I said, I've done this with everything bagel seasoning. I've done it with Italian seasoning with cheese mixed into the batter that melts inside the bread. So just however you want to do it. Now I'm going to fold this up and then I'm going to knead it. Now I only knead mine like 3 times. I don't want to overwork it. I don't want to make it tough. So I'm going to take that, and you can see I folded the raisins in like that, and I'm going to turn it and do it this way. And then one last time, turn it again, and knead it one last time. And then I'm just going to fold it over like that. Now I've got my pans here that have already been sprayed with cooking spray, and you can see my little loaf there. And I'm going to take one last little thing. I'm just going to take my loaf and just give it a little spritz as well. That just keeps it from sticking. And then I'm going to set it right there in my pan, and it'll go right back over here where my bowl was this morning. Now I've still got to work these two, but I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me do that. So this by morning will fill out both ends of the pans and will be about level or maybe a little bit above the top. It'll rise again. I'm just going to put the same paper towel back over these 3 bread pans, and that's it. Tomorrow morning I will bake them at 350. It usually takes about 25 minutes, and I do move them around inside the oven so that they're even. Not only mixing them around, but also turn them to make sure that they're even. And that's pretty much it. I'll bring you back tomorrow morning to let you see what they look like when I get done. But for now, we'll see you in just a little while. Alright guys, this is James back with you, just like I told you I'd be early on a Sunday morning, about to finish this bread project up, and I just want you to kind of see what we got going on here. I put these in for about 25 minutes, I guess, on about I think it was 350, and they are done. They are ready for that next and final step, which is cooling them off. But one key thing that we have to do, and living in the South, this should not be a surprise to anyone, we've got butter. And so these have just come out of the oven, and so I am going to take this butter and just run it across the top. Nothing fancy here. We don't have little fancy instruments to put butter on. Just going to run it across the top, and you can see how that is melting and going down to every little crook and cranny in there. And this is the thing that kind of sends it over the top. It is so good. And got one more to do there. Now, to be quite honest with you, I gotta make a little confession here. That what you just saw is just the first run. We're gonna do it again. After that butter kind of melts and runs down the sides and everything, I'll come back and hit it one more time and just give it a good dose. I mean, you only live once, right? Might as well eat good. And I just wanted you to see how easy it is to make bread on your own. Now, again, like I said in the first part of this video, I know that there are so many out there that will say, well, that's not how I do it, and that doesn't look real healthy. Well, you know, there are so many different ways to make bread. And I'm not saying this is the right way. I'm saying this is our way. This is the way we do it. And yes, there are many different variations that, like I've said already in this video, I am going to try at some point. And but you know, right now this is what we do. And also one more thing, and I think I've mentioned this briefly already, is that please don't let all these steps that I've shown you discourage you and say, well, I just don't have time for that. Guys, if there's anybody that's short on time, it's me. Every one of these little steps that I've done, in the case of this bread that I make, it, you know, it's 4 steps: getting your starter ready, making your dough, making your actual loaves, and then baking it. None of those, other than the baking, took more than about 5 minutes. Okay, it's 5 minutes worth of work. Set it on the back of the counter, let it go, come back, you know, late that day or whatever, and do the next step. It's 5 minutes to make the dough. Set it, forget it, come back the next morning or whatever the case may be, and make your actual loaves again, about 5 minutes. And then the longest thing is the actual baking. And I've gotten so much done while this was in here cooking that I don't, you know, I could have done other things while I was doing it too, but I was enjoying just sitting here in the quiet of the morning. Now, one thing that we got to do real quick now is get these out of the pan. And usually I would have 2 hands to help me do this, but you can see how easy they just pour out of there. Look at how brown and pretty that is. Just gonna roll it back over right there on the cooling rack. This is my cinnamon raisin one, and you can see what that looks like. Look at that on the bottom, that cinnamon and those raisins in there. That's gonna be so good. As a matter of fact, that one may not make it all the way to cooling off before that one gets cut, because it is morning, it is breakfast time, and it is probably getting ready to be part of my breakfast, if I had to guess, before I head off to church. But those will sit there right there until they cool off, and then I have some bags. I'll bag those, and they'll be ready to go. So that's pretty much it. Again, at some point in the future, I will bring you a more detailed, where if I can get somebody to film for me to show every little step, the measurements and everything. But for now, all I'm trying to do is show you just learning one little skill that I learned from my wife's aunt that I can use for a lifetime. We enjoy it, it's delicious, and it's a skill that could come in handy at some point. So learn what you can, and if it's a little bit different, then go a different route. Guys, I'm gonna leave it right there. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Hit that thumbs up button, and remember, we love you. God bless you. This is James from Butler Farms, and we'll be seeing you.